Well, hi everybody, welcome to the very first episode of Phil's World on Life and Leadership. Woohoo!
Yes.
Are we excited?
Yes.
I'm here with Lawrence, who is going to ask me some questions. I'm here with CJ behind the camera, Damo, who is amazing, otherwise known as Damien, but we call him Damo, and Zan, who is making sure we say everything we're supposed to say. So, we're going to be doing this once a month, and when we do, we'll let you know about it, but I'm basically, the plan is every second Monday of every month, we'll release another one of these podcasts or these vlogs, which will help you to become a better leader, make better choices, build a better life. That's what we're all about. Isn't that right, Lawrence?
That's exactly.
If you were to see Lawrence like I can, you would recognize he has one of the greatest beards on the planet, probably top 10. But anyway, that is not what we're here to talk about today. It's not about Lawrence's beard.
Thank you.
It's more about you, about us, about every one of us.
Exactly.
How do we become better in life and leadership? And we're going to discuss some different things. Today, we're going to get controversial.
I think so, yeah.
Aren't we, Lawrence?
Yeah,
to
I think
start
so.
with, we thought if you're going to do a podcast, you may as well start controversial, create a bit of a stir, and see where we go. So, where we're starting, Lawrence, is all about this term special.
Yeah.
Are you special, Lawrence?
Well, yeah, I believe I'm special. God says I'm special. The Bible
You
says
are.
The Bible says I'm special.
But we've been talking about this,
Yeah.
haven't we?
Yeah, we have been discussing it, yeah.
Yeah, I've been talking about it with our team at Hillsong in South Africa, and talking about the fact that special, being told you're special, actually could be the worst thing for you.
Well,
And it's like, why would people think that? Isn't it great? Isn't it great to be told you're special? But actually, being special could be dangerous.
yeah.
It actually could kill you. Not physically, I hope, but definitely it could cause you to kill the potential that's inside of you. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I think so, but why would you say that say for instance there's a parent that's raised up their kids, they really love their kids, they've invested a lot in their kids, and they believe that kid is special, and that child, from the youngest moment of their life, that they're special. What is really wrong with that?
Well, I have 3 kids, and you're absolutely right. Parents, we want to tell our kids we're special. In fact, my daughter was looking over the notes of what I was doing today, and she's like, "Dad, what are you saying? We're not special." She was actually confused. But here's the thing, the problem with special, being told you're special, is that it implies that somehow you are better or greater than others, okay? And when that happens, if it's not treated well, Lawrence, what happens is when you get told enough that you're special, what happens is you think you're entitled. So you end up with an entitlement perspective, an entitlement view of life, which is I'm special, therefore I deserve to have this. And I deserve to have that. And I deserve to be treated a certain way. In fact, the more you get told you're special, the more you feel like the world revolves around you. And so when something bad happens, when something goes wrong, when you face a challenge, it's often the people who get told all the time, you're special, you're special, you're special, who find it really difficult to handle challenges in life. Because it's like, this shouldn't happen to me. Because I'm special, and because I'm special, I don't deserve to have this. But we realize in life pretty quickly that no matter how many times you've been told you're special, there will be challenges.
Yeah.
There will be difficulties. There will be things you have to face in life. So we've got to be careful with this term special, because it can actually cause people to, I think, struggle with the reality of life.
Yeah. You've been talking to our team about this for a couple of weeks now, and I think you said, one of the things that you said is that you can become self-obsessed.
Yeah.
So what is this whole thing about self-obsession and and what does it cause in people?
Well, that's the world that we live in. Sadly, we live in today a world that's very self-obsessed, and it struggles to be self-aware. So here's the thing about special. See, what I would say is rather than special creating a sense of entitlement, if you feel that you are special. Now, I could say about myself, you know, if I feel like I'm special in a certain way, a negative way, then I become self-obsessed. But if I see it in the right way, it actually challenges me. So I grew up in a great family. I grew up in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah.
Grew up with going to a great, you know, having a great education, having parents who did whatever they could so that my life could be better. Having a university education, having access to some money. You know, not super wealthy, but just having access to a whole lot of things that could make me look at others and think, well, I'm a bit more special than they are. But here's what I believe. If I look at what I have, then it shouldn't lead to entitlement. It should actually lead to responsibility.
Okay.
Because I'm not more special than some of the young people growing up in South Africa, where we live now, who didn't grow up with the kind of family that I had the privilege of having. Haven't grown up with the opportunity to have a great education or have some level of wealth or the like that their parents can give them a start.
Yeah.
And yet every one of these young people are still really special. But the problem is that we think special leads to I deserve this and I'm entitled, and it comes crashing down, as opposed to what it should say is I'm going to be more responsible because I've actually been given more. And the more that I've been given means I should live with an understanding, how do I use that? How do I leverage that to make a difference in the lives of others? And if I live like that, then I'm going to live a better life.
Yeah.
I'm going to make good decisions. I'm going to be a leader because I'm taking personal responsibility rather than living like I'm entitled and I deserve this and I should get that. And like you say, that's what happens when we get self-obsessed. Self-aware people understand that maybe they got a better lot in life than someone else.
Yeah.
And self-aware people, therefore, they're not going to live just obsessed by what I can get and put themselves as number one and kind of make themselves center of the universe. Self-aware people recognize there's a bigger picture, and they play a part, but they're not the whole picture. And they're not the central character all the time either. And understanding that, I think, is really helpful to living a healthy, fulfilled life, being part of a healthy team. In every area of your life, you become better at handling situations when you're self-aware rather than self-obsessed.
And just before we go on a little bit, delve a little bit more deeper into self-awareness, one more question I have around self-obsession. I mean, or just a comment from you maybe. Social media, the world that we live in today, actually, what are your thoughts on that? Because we believe that, you know, social media obviously there's some good to it, but there's also a bad side to it. What would your comments be on that? Yeah,
look, I mean, there's a lot of people talking about social media now and whether it's positive, whether it's negative, and it's one of those things that I think about it like television. You know, when television first came out, there were people who were like, man, television is going to destroy everything and everyone. It's going to stop kids playing outside. You know, all of this, and now, you know, you see it being repeated with social media, with iPads and iPhones and all the rest of it, and probably more intense because it's more personal now. You know, with the television, you had to go, you had to sit down, you had to watch it. Now you got your device with you everywhere. So it can be dangerous, and we've got to be careful that it doesn't become this world of how many followers and how many likes, and we base our value on that. Okay, if you base your value on your social media status, that is, again, a self-obsessed person. And that is, it's never going to be fulfilling. You know, how many followers is enough followers? How many likes is enough likes? So you got to see social media as a tool, you know, put things out there that are helpful and positive, and don't get overwhelmed by it, and limit your time on it, you know, because otherwise it does become overwhelming, I think, for people. And I see it, you know, I see it in the next generation, see it in my kids, that, you know, they're on social media and that's great, but I don't want them to get obsessed by it. I don't want to get obsessed by it, but I want to use it in a way that, you know, spreads a good message, encourages people. So you got to be careful. You definitely have to be careful. One thing I learned recently, which I'm trying to do, is in the morning, I don't want the first thing I do to be check my phone. And that happens. How many times does that happen? CJ's checking his phone right now.
Exactly.
And he needs this message. He needs help. People, if you're watching, if you're listening, please help CJ. That's part of this podcast. It's the Help CJ podcast. But here's what I decided to do. And I listened to another podcast, and they were interviewing a guy, and he talked about the first thing he would do when he wakes up in the morning is to go outside.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether it's cold, rainy, wet, whether it's a beautiful day. When he wakes up, before he looks at his phone, he's going to go outside and just breathe in the fresh air and just recognize there's a three-dimensional world that's bigger than whatever is on
that's very helpful.
Whatever is on his social media device.
Yeah.
So I did it this morning, went outside. It's a bit stormy, a bit rainy, but it felt good. So I think that's important. But here's another thing, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about, well, do I not tell my kids they're special? Do I not tell my team they're special? Here's what I would say. You can tell them they're special, but I would use other words. I would use words like, hey, you're courageous.
Courageous.
Yeah, you're courageous. You did that really well. Like, point at certain things and tell them how they excelled at something. Build their confidence. Man, it's amazing the way you do that, or I'm really proud of you for doing this. So notice certain things, and same with your team, but just using the term you're special could actually set them up for failure. Yeah.
So when you started talking about this to our team, I think obviously self-awareness is a big theme at the moment. I think across various podcasts, across various places, you can talk about self-awareness. And I had a question immediately. I was like, okay, how do I know that I'm not self-aware if I'm not self-aware?
Yes, that is the big question.
So
it's a good question. And it's like, how do I know? Because you don't. Because we all have blind spots.
Yeah.
And there are things about us that we don't notice. And that is why marriage is helpful. Because if you marry the right person, now they're going to encourage you, but they're also going to tell you where you need to improve. So self-aware people, actually, here's what they do. They surround themselves with people they trust who are going to help them see their blind spots.
Yeah.
Self-obsessed people will never do that. Self-obsessed people do not want to be told where they have a problem. They will avoid those kind of people. They will avoid that kind of confrontation. Self-aware people will make sure they have in their world people who will challenge them, who they trust, good people who want the best for them. And that from that point, you start to build a level of self-awareness. I think as well, just kind of asking the question, so going, am I self-obsessed? Am I self-aware? Even just asking that question is helpful. Because some people don't even ask the question. They just live blindly in their own little self-obsessed world. And so coming out of that by asking the question is really critical. And I think just learning, having a posture to learn. Self-aware people recognize they don't have all the answers. They want to learn, they want to grow. Self-obsessed people often don't recognize they need to learn anything. They kind of almost think, I know everything and I've got it all together. And so it's really difficult to work with self-obsessed people. But self-aware people you can work with because they're always trying to improve, learn, grow, get better. And so I want to be more self-aware. Lawrence?
So I mean, definitely that's the first thing that when I started learning about this term, I'm like, okay, what are the practical things that I need to do? And I think you've mentioned surround yourself with people. Actually, just ask that question of am I self-aware? But then, what do you do if you realize you're not self-aware? What would you say is one of the first things, or some practical things you do? Realize?
Here's a statement: your ability to grow is determined by your ability to self-assess or self-evaluate. If you're listening to this podcast, you're watching what we're talking about, and you want to grow in any area of your life, then it really is determined by your ability to be self-aware, to self-evaluate, to self-assess. So how do you do that? Think about what happens when you walk into a room. What kind of atmosphere do you create? Do you by nature encourage people? Have you asked people, hey, do you find me a positive or a negative person? how do you respond to change? How do you respond to pressure? How do you respond to challenges?
Yeah.
How do you respond to success? How do you respond to failure? Asking yourself these questions and asking people around you is going to help you. I asked my family and my kids how they feel, sometimes when I'm in a room, and it wasn't that positive. It was okay, but I've got some work to do.
Some work to do.
Yeah, I tend to get a little frustrated, and so I'm working on that. Kids, not that you're listening to this podcast or watching it, but maybe you are. Dad's trying to get better. But also, as a leader of a team, I want to create a positive atmosphere in the rooms I walk into.
Yeah.
And really that is determined by, do I recognize what I'm bringing, what's going on inside of me? And again, there are people who can help you. My wife helps me with this. But understanding I've got to self-evaluate, I've got to look at these things is the only way I'm going to grow.
So just maybe for the people who are watching, Phil, would we make these like these questions or this available to people who want?
I think we're going to put this down. We're going to have some online, notes from what we talk about. People can go and check that out. PhilDooley.com, is that right, Damo? That's where people can go and check it out.
And if they've got questions, they can.
If they've got questions, they can go to the website PhilDooley.com, or they can go to askphil@hillsong.co.za.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would say is self-obsessed people are constantly judging others.
Yeah.
Okay, they're judging others, whereas self-aware people are judging themselves. And, Jesus said this, Matthew 7:5, he said, first get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. So Jesus is talking about this whole thing of self-awareness and self-obsession. We're like judging everybody else about how they're doing and where they're at.
Yeah.
And Jesus is saying, you're judging everyone else, but you're not looking at the log in your own eye, the challenge that's affecting your eyesight. And if we can do that, then we get to see everyone differently. We get to see our world differently, and people see us differently. So understand it's important to get self-assessment from others, trust others. Self-aware people are always thinking, how do I grow and how do I improve? So those aspects of who you are going to make a massive difference. We live in a self-obsessed world, but let's not be those self-obsessed people. Let's be self-aware people, because that's how we grow. Yes, you are special, but don't let special kill you, because it can. And I don't want special to make me entitled. I want it to make me responsible. That's
very good. And so I guess as I listen to you speak, and as I've listened to you speaking, what self-awareness does, it's kind of a door that opens up possibilities for you to improve as an individual, to grow as a leader, So you've been talking about a few other things around self in our team, and what are those, and how will that help us to grow in our leadership?
Well, again, aspects of self, and some of this I got from a conversation with Gary Clark, who leads our Hillsong Church in London. Phenomenal, amazing, one of the most incredible leaders I know. And we actually did a very cool video interview in the bush, and you were there
on safari.
On safari, Gary's Gold on safari. So look out for that. It'll be on the YouTube, vlogs and all of that. So that's coming as well. But we talked about three things other than self-awareness. Self-awareness was the fourth, which we just discussed. But we talked about if you were going to grow and develop as a person, then you need to have these three things. You need to be self-motivated. You need to be self-managed. And you need to be self-governed.
Okay, wow.
And if you can develop those things, Gary was talking about how that's what he looks for on his team. And I would agree, that's what I look for on the team that we're building here. And I think any organization that wants great people is going to build a healthy team, needs healthy people. And that's people who are working on these three areas of their lives.
So being self-aware will help you to actually see whether I'm self-managed or self-governed or...
self-motivated,
self-motivated. So what would you say is a person that's self-managed, or what are the characteristics of someone who is self-managed as an individual or as a leader?
Okay, a self-managed person is someone who can be trusted to get the task done without constantly being checked up on, and is willing to go the extra mile to get it done. So self-managed people, they are disciplined people.
Yeah.
And the sad reality is, sometimes on team, if you're leading people and you are constantly having to go, did you get the job done? Did you get the job done? I gave you this last week, but you are constantly having to check up on that. That is the most frustrating thing. No one wants to have people like that on their team. No one wants to feel like, I know I'm going to give them this, but I know tomorrow or the next day I'm going to have to check up.
Exactly.
Have they done the job? So we don't want that. Damien, you don't want that. No, he doesn't. CJ, Zan's amazing. She would never be that person. She's actually one of the most self-managed people there is. But what that means is that you're a disciplined person. Self-managed people, they keep themselves informed. They keep themselves focused. They recognize that it's their responsibility. Again, we're using that responsibility word to get the job done. They have new ideas. They show initiative. They come up with better ways of doing things. They look for new opportunities. They are a contributor. And I think if you can be a self-managed person, it's going to open all kinds of doors for you. It truly is, because you're disciplining yourself to look at how do we improve? How do we grow this? And you're carrying your role. People notice that, don't they? You know, if you've got someone who you know, hey, they get the job done. I didn't even have to keep, explaining it to them. I can give them other opportunities, other responsibilities.
And it's just almost being self-managed is almost a more relaxed way of living. If you know you've got your things in place and you know you've got your plans in place, and I just know if you're a self-managed person, I think in the long run you're just going to enjoy life a lot more.
You are. You're more relaxed. You're more comfortable because you're self-managed. You don't have to have someone telling you, "Hey, stay fit." You're kind of managing yourself because you realize it's important to stay fit and healthy.
Yeah.
You don't have someone checking up. You don't have the bank calling you all the time because you didn't pay the credit card. But self-managed people actually organize their finances, get themselves out of debt. That's a whole nother story, but they manage. We're not just talking about work, we're talking about all aspects of your life. Managing your health, managing your relationships, managing your finances, managing your time, if you're married, if you've got kids, so that you can do all these things and do them well. And self-managed people don't have it perfectly, but what they're doing is they're disciplining themselves to put the time, effort, and energy in where it matters the most.
Okay, so when I heard this the first time, I actually almost got a little bit panicky, saying, okay, actually, there's so many things that I need to improve on. What would you say?
Lawrence was freaking out.
I was just saying, what would you say if anyone's watching or listening to this? What would you say is the first thing they need to do? Because you can go and you can have a whole list of things. You go, okay, I'm not doing this well. I'm not doing this well. What would you say do they need to do?
Okay, two things. Number one is you need to get some form of calendar, diary, schedule. So you actually put in place what really matters across the course of a year. And we do that for church. Lucinda and I do that with our family. We look at when can we have a family holiday. We look at when the kids' exams are. We look at the calendar for church life and leadership. When are busy times of the year? When do we need to focus on this? So we actually put it out there. If you're not self-managed, you just whatever the next week is, whatever the next day is, you're just trying to survive. Self-managed people, they're not surviving, the term is they're thriving. So that's the first thing. Get a calendar, a schedule, diary, something that kind of put a little plan for the year into. You may not know all the details, but the big things. Because you put the big things in, then everything has to work around that. Because I get a lot of demands, you get a lot of demands, and if you don't have big things in place, then all the urgent takes over. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you need to have some kind of note system, journal, whatever, where you can write down what is really important for today, for the week, and you can start to prioritize. If I'm starting to get stressed or freaked out, then what I know I need to do is get my little journal book out, write down all the things I got to deal with, and then start to prioritize them. And how good is it when you cross those off?
Absolutely.
It's the best feeling.
Absolutely. Last week I had the week of victory. There's a few things I needed to cross, and I said, this is going to be the week of victory.
And today was a day of victory because we signed a lease for our new location.
Come on.
Which is going to happen in the southern suburbs of Cape Town for Hillsong, South Africa.
So excited about that.
That's been a long one.
Yes, exactly.
That's been on the list for a long time, but you managed that well and put the time and effort into it, and now we're going to see the results of that. So that's something to do with your role, but then there's also personal things that we need to deal with. You can do a whole lot more if you manage your time well.
Yeah.
You can.
I agree.
That's just the reality.
I agree.
If we get focused on managing ourselves, managing our time, there's a whole lot more that we can do than we think we could. Like, to be honest, I'm doing a podcast. I always thought I was too busy to do a podcast, but then I made it a priority, put it in the calendar, said this is when we're doing it. These people showed up. I was like, okay, we're doing this now. And here we are. Hey, thanks for joining us. This is part one of a two-part conversation that I had with my friend Lawrence, with one of the world's greatest beards, talking about why being told you're special could be killing you, not physically, but dangerous. And also talking about self-awareness, our obsession with self. We're going to continue this next month, part two, dealing with aspects of becoming better people, dealing with aspects of self, being self-managed, being self-motivated, being self-governed, and how that can cause us to grow. So we're going to check that out next month. Thanks for being with us today. Hey, if you've got questions, we want to hear from you. You can email us at askphil@hillsong.co.za. You can go to our website, phildooley.com. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love you to rate this podcast on iTunes, spread the word on social media. Thanks for being with us. Part one, thanks for joining us. Part two is going to be amazing. Next month, we will see you and hear from you then.